Hello everyone and welcome to the Redmen TV. It's the Redmen Originals Podcast. I'm Steve Hoare and yes, it is a change lineup today for those of you who are watching. You can probably see we've got no Chloe, we've got no Chris and we've got no Paul. Illness has hit the Redmen camp in various ways, so get well soon to Chloe, get well soon to Paul, and get well soon to Chris's family, because Chris is busy looking after his little girls who are poorly as well. So we've got a change up in lineup. I'm here, Dan's still here, you're like the last two surviving, and I'm barely hanging on.
I'm not 100%, don't get me wrong, but we've been decimated.
We are like this. Liverpool 12 months ago, when everyone was out and we were calling the kids in and all that kind of stuff.
I'll collapse on the deck like Harvey Elliott post-Luton after this show. Like,
it's been one of those. We're delighted to say Luke has joined us though as well. Luke's been you're the, I'm trying to think in this situation, you're the Conor Bradley. You've got your chance You've got your chance to shine, and it's
that means you're going to be injured halfway through. Sorry, Conor. Love you.
You're out next week probably.
It's national call up. This is the big show. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's my debut. So.
Exactly. Luke's been called up now as well. So yeah, we are we're depleted, but we're going. So just let you know how the whole schedule is going to work for the rest of the week. In terms of getting everyone back fit and firing. We're just going to do today. It's going to be the Redmen Originals Podcast, biased football podcast over on Redmen Plus. We'll record that tomorrow. That is Tuesday, and then the deep dive with Chris and Josh will be Wednesday. So originals today, biased Tuesday, deep dive Wednesday, and hopefully at some point people are back fit and ready to do some work and stuff. But hopefully everyone gets well soon and none of us drop like flies is the main thing. Otherwise it might just be Dan. You tend to be the one who gets the least sick. I think it's because you're the healthiest.
Thanks. I'll take that. Listen, I'm not going to disagree.
No, you eat right and you train and stuff as well. Chloe does, to be fair, but Chloe's just had some bad luck at the minute.
She's had it tough. Really
Get well
tough.
soon, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. So what we're going to do today, the concept of the show, we're going to play Red's Roulette. We've done this in the past. We're going to do it again today. It's very simple. And some might say we only ever do this when the news is low and there's no football to talk about. And those people would be right. That is exactly what we do. So it's really, really simple. We've got all the Liverpool players who have played at least 10 games this season on the wheel. We'll spin the wheel. They'll come up and we'll have a chat about how they've done so far, maybe what the future entails for them. Are they going to be here next year? Do we want them to be here next year? All that. It's a real open conversation. We've got no idea who's going to come up. We were surprised to learn before 22 different players. Arne Slot doesn't rotate, but he has used 22 players at least 10 times in all comps. So there's quite a lot we could get on with Dan. Shall we spin the wheel?
Let's do it.
Shall we spin the wheel?
Time like the present.
We will. Oh no, Joe, what are you doing? That's the wrong wheel. There we go. Right then, we are going to spin the wheel. Here we go. As the wheel's spinning, by the way, just to let you guys know, it has landed on Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Not much to talk about there. Nice quiet start.
Let's have a chat about Trent Alexander-Arnold. Then before we do, a couple of quick messages while you guys can gather your thoughts on what you're going to say about Trent. We have got our live show tickets on sale right now. We are going on tour to Ireland and to Northern Ireland. Dublin on the 23rd, Belfast on the 24th, and Cork on the 25th of April. If you go to ticketmaster.ie, if you want tickets for Dublin and to Belfast, if you want to go to eventbrite.ie, if you want to get your tickets for Cork, do come and join us. And before we get to the Trent talk in a second, Dan, you did the Anfield abseil the other day. So Dan and Chris jumped off the side of Anfield effectively. Tell us a little bit about it and what you're doing it for.
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm not 100%. I'm still feeling the after effects. But no, I did do that. It was good fun, actually. I wasn't particularly scared, but there was definitely an element of like, why in God's name am I still on the edge of the main stand at Anfield when I was still on the edge of the main stand at Anfield? But it was good. I enjoyed it. Me and Chris both did it for Woodlands Hospice, a charity in Liverpool that's got sort of great care for the elderly and sort of end-of-life care and stuff like that. So really good cause. Chris was more scared than me and then flew down it. But to be honest, it absolutely bounced his way down the stand. So, yeah, good experience. I'd recommend doing it actually to anybody, to be honest with you. But yeah, there is a link in the description of that stuff if you want to donate. We're looking to raise some decent money for the Woodlands. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, and the video's coming as well, I should say that.
I was going to say, it's all been video. We had GoPros, we had camera people. I was a cameraman on the day. There's content coming. But yeah, do go and help donate to the Woodlands. I say, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link in the description. If you're listening as a podcast, there'll also be a link on the description in your whatever app you're using. But yeah, if you can help out Woodlands Hospice with anything. And if you can't, I understand times are tough and all that. If you can just give a retweet to one of our posts or something, it might find its way to somebody who has got the ability to help out a little. But yeah, please do go and support them if you can. Right then, let's talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's been a strange season, Luke, for Trent, in that injuries. He started the season, he wasn't quite right. He was in and out the team. He was playing, but he wasn't blasting games. And then he kind of hit his stride and he's got injured. Parking the contract stuff aside, we'll definitely touch on the contract stuff. Just Trent, the footballer this season, how do you think he's got on?
No, I think Trent, the footballer this season, he's been tremendous. And there's no way to dance around it. You know, when he has been fit and been available, he's been a massive use to the side. And I think you can see that more when he doesn't play. We've spoken about it many times before, haven't we, Steve, where like, I always reference sort of like that Tottenham game in the Carabao Cup and then Newcastle away, where we were just sort of lacking creativity, lacking that, and then he comes on and adds something so different to the side. But it's a shame because it's all just overshadowed by this contract, what you're saying. So
he's played 39 games in all competitions, Dan. He's got 3 goals and 7 assists. He is no longer the main creative hub of the team, but it feels like he's the person whose job it is to give the ball to the creative hub, to the creative hubs rather. He's almost the pass before. But Luke's right in that the main times you've noticed Trent is when Trent's not been there. Yeah. With all due respect to Conor Bradley and to Gerald Quansah, who've been good players and they've done a decent job, more so one than the other, I suppose. Liverpool have still, you know, if there is a world coming with a world without Trent Alexander-Arnold, it hasn't been that pretty in all aspects, really.
No, it hasn't, no. And listen, nobody can really replicate what Trent does. Liverpool's got that problem in a few different areas. If the 3 leave, in particular, they are irreplaceable. And Trent, I really like Conor Bradley, I really do. He's a very, very high-level, conventional, up-and-down fullback, as I describe him as all the time. But again, his repertoire just doesn't stack up, and nor does Joe Gomez is. Every time Trent gets it, he looks to hurt you, and that can be to his detriment as well. He looks to hurt opposition, that is, because he tries things. He's really adventurous. He's got that imagination. He's got that eye for a pass. And again, his skill set, he's got every club in the bag, as they say, hasn't he? His skill set is so extreme that he does things that sometimes fail. And he does things that sometimes lead to us being in trouble and what have you. But I think he's had a good season. I think defensively, actually, he stood up to a lot of different tests really, really well, more so than maybe people give him credit for in different eras. And I think the Arne Slot tweak in Trent's game, you mentioned the numbers there, they're not quite as high as they have been. That's because he has been more relied upon and has been more focused on just be a fullback, be a solid right back. But that's sort of sprinkled in with little moments of just sheer genius that he possesses. He's been public enemy number 1 at times as well, I think it's fair to say. It was a United game when people really got stuck into him post that. A lot of that because of the dark cloud that's hanging over him because of the contract stuff. But yeah, I think he had a really good season. I think defensively he's handled, like I say, most problems. I think the Jeremy Doku game, albeit didn't hurt us, that was one way we went, okay, he's really struggled to get to grips with him there. But yeah, he's been more of a normal right back, it feels like, but again with just moments where he's got to get off his seat and go, that's Trent.
On that, Luke, as well, it's interesting because Dan's right. We haven't seen too much of the midfield stuff, you know, wandering inside, the inverted stuff. Arne Slot feels like he wants his fullbacks to be fullbacks. And I think he done the interview, was it with Real Fair? I can't remember who it was with rather, and he said, with all due respect to Trent, I've got midfielders who can play midfield. I want him to be a right back. And it can go both ways. He's a fantastic player. You want him on the ball a lot. If he gets the ball at right back, he tends to be in more space. But I think if you look overall, he's been more of what you would call a conventional right back. Whereas, you know, it was Pep Lijnders, wasn't he? Who was desperate to do the inverted stuff, get him in midfield. And at times that worked as well. Do you think it's playing to Trent's strengths or weaknesses or whatever that he is just being asked to be a bit more conventional?
Well, I think at the start of the season, we knew he was going to be a conventional right-back, sort of from the way Arne Slot was to set out and from the press conference and stuff like that. I think it probably was looking at that to his detriment at the start, because we know how good he is at bombing on and sort of putting the ball in, being creative. And I think, you know, an element that sometimes when we touch him before, we miss him, is because he is the man who'll play the killer pass. So when he's not on the pitch, like you said yourself, Steve, that's why we don't see him. Coming in, I think he's put a lot of doubt sort of to the back, I think. I think it's hard for Trent, especially because he always gets so much criticism about his defensive work from stuff years ago, you know what I mean? And it always gets rehashed and brought back up, where if you know another right back did it, nobody would say anything. So it's the way it's sort of portrayed by the media sometimes, especially like Sky and Roy Keane and that.
The narrative about
him, yeah. So, Trent can't defend.
And that's set in stone, sorry.
Yeah,
that can't be changed now, seemingly. Doesn't matter how many good defensive games he has, because people have said for time memoriam that he can't defend. That's it now. You know
and
what I mean?
That's the point I was coming to, was to think that at many parts of the season he's been very, very solid defensively and been an excellent fullback. It's just a shame because we know how much he can offer going forward. So if he was given a little bit more freedom and more of a free play system, he'd probably be pulling up the numbers that he was pulling up, because he's still that player.
Yeah. We've skirted around it a little bit, but we have to talk about the contract stuff, guys. It'd be remiss. You can't have an Alexander-Arnold conversation at this moment in time without talking about the contract situation. I'll start with you, Luke. There's even reports today saying he's like half agreed something with Real Madrid. Again, we don't know the validity of all that one. It's weird, really, in that the youngest lads, the homegrown lads, the guy who was vice captain, said he's dreamt of being the captain of the football club. I think if you polled most Liverpool fans, I think most would say he's the one who we think's most likely to leave on a free transfer. For one, there's a club. Yeah. The other two haven't really. There's not really been any much noise about Van Dijk and Salah in terms of destinations. We all know the Real Madrid thing with Alexander-Arnold. It damaged before, like the dark cloud over him, all that kind of stuff. You can't ignore it. It does feel like we're seeing maybe the last 9 games or so, and he's not even fit. He might not play half of these. Like, it does feel like we're probably seeing the end of Trent's Liverpool career. I hope we're wrong, but is that the sense you've got as well?
Yeah, it's the sense I've got as well. It's really strange, because you think out of the 3, like you've said yourself, he's the one you'd expect to stay, and he's the one that sort of fits the Edwards criteria more. Obviously, with Edwards coming back into one of the transfers, he doesn't like the older players, and people know that. And in my opinion, it's a changed game. Players are going to play a lot older now, especially with like the sports science and stuff like that coming in. Players can play on until they're probably 35, 36, where recently, when we're talking about sort of the 2010s and stuff like that, the players weren't playing as long. So if we're looking at it on paper, he was the one I would have said at the start of the season, well, he's definitely going to re-sign, because there's so much upturn in value for him. Even if we stick him on another 2-year deal and then he does turn around and say, I want to leave, all right, at least we can get a fee for you. We're talking about like £150 million player leaving for nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the fee that he would draw in. I find it really strange, because like you've gone on say it's his boyhood club. He's been saying countless times wants to be the captain. As you've got Steven Gerrard pulling out quotes on him about the Legends game, saying, that one's for you, Trent. He knows the rest, as in sign the deal. But yeah, it's really strange. It's something I've really struggled to come to terms with. I think it's played sometimes into their performances. I think around the time of that Man United performance, there was a lot of media around Real Madrid at that sort of time, and then it sort of showed on the pitch, and the crowd that sort of lost their heads on them a bit. I was certainly one of them. When I sort of see him throwing his hands in the air, stuff like that, I was thinking, mate, just drag him off, get him off now. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to be here. But I don't think that is the case. I think that was just the way the media spun it sometimes. Sometimes it was turning his own fans against him. So, but it's one of them. Let's see what happens. I remain hopeful, but I think he's the one most likely to leave.
It's interesting, Dan, because again, you're kind of looking for breadcrumbs here on the stories and stuff, but by some accounts, he's actually the only one who's had offers and rejected, and apparently big money offers as well, one of the highest paid players ever to play for Liverpool. So I don't believe this is a money issue, really, because, I mean, if he goes on a free transfer, he gets a signing on fee, and that's definitely part of this. You've got to play into that as well. You can't ignore that he gets a significant fee when you move on a free transfer, but and I understand Liverpool are getting loads of criticism. The owners, Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, getting loads of criticism, and I get it, because Liverpool could about to be losing probably the most valuable asset they've got in terms of transfer fees for nothing. So it completely makes sense. But if he just wants to leave, actually, there's not much those guys can do. If he has been offered £300,000 a week or whatever it is, and he says no, at some point, that's the autonomy he's got. He's got control of this. That's what Bosman rulings are. So it's a very difficult situation, because this isn't a player you're thinking Liverpool are forcing him out. This isn't a player like, for example, in the past, people reference Steve McManaman, people reference like other players, Luis Suarez, Javier Mascherano, different circumstances, but players who wanted to leave to go and win things. Like Liverpool do win things. Trent's won everything. Yeah. He's probably going to be another Premier League champion. That's where I think the backlash that Luke's going on about is that, actually, you've been offered loads of dough, you're the vice captain, and you're winning things. Why aren't you staying?
Yeah, this definitely feels like that to me. It doesn't feel like a money issue. And Liverpool, I would imagine, have pulled out all the stops for all the reasons Luke mentioned a minute ago.
Mate, it might be the reason he's the vice captain.
Yeah,
That caused
those conversations absolutely happen all the time in football clubs. Yeah, but you're right in terms of the profile and the fit. He is the one at the start of the season. I think I said at the start of the season, he's the one that makes most sense to stay for a whole myriad of reasons. You could look at Salah and maybe the output diminishing. That hasn't happened, of course, but maybe Liverpool thought it might. Maybe Van Dijk's in a similar boat. That hasn't happened either. But you're absolutely spot on. But he's the one who hasn't nailed his colours to the mast at all this season. Now, he said early on, or he obviously didn't say early on, he didn't want this played out in public. All the best for that, Trent, by the way. But he was never likely to come out and do an interview a week or an interview every fortnight, like Van Dijk and to a lesser extent Salah have done. But they've both come out and said, I want to stay, basically, haven't they? You know what I mean? More or less. Trent's yet to do that. And it's interesting. I do tend to agree, and I think it is more down to the challenge and sort of a new go at something different. He's done everything there is to do at Liverpool, let's be honest, now, apart from captain of the football club. I'm desperate for him to stay and would love nothing more than to see what would now be quite a dramatic U-turn in this situation and him actually stay on the football club. I'd be absolutely delighted because I think he's a wonderful talent, and they're the sort of lads that you want to stay. They're the sort of pillars that you build your club around, but I don't think it's going to happen. Whereas with the other two, I think we will strike up agreements. I always felt like all three of them were going to be nigh on impossible to do just because of the finances involved. And I think Trent's going to be the early fall guy in that. We know about the interest from Real Madrid, you've already mentioned it. But let's be honest, there's only one, arguably two destinations in world football that would really sort of turn Trent's head. And I think Real Madrid probably one of them. Barcelona might have been the other one, but they haven't got anything like the finances or the resources to do this deal. So we are in quite an unfortunate position that has come to this in this way. But let's also be honest, you touched on it a moment ago, Steve, Liverpool have found themselves here.
Yeah,
and that's all their own fault.
It's loads of people. I'll go back to it. I think 3 sporting directors leave and come. The manager tying people down to contracts that ended, and then he leaves. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you can't do contract deals until the new manager's in, and there's no. It's been a massive mess, Luke. But it is worth saying, and there's a few people in the chat here saying maybe it is a money thing. And again, potentially it could be for Trent. If that is the case, and he's rejecting 300, 350, whatever it is, big money. There's talk that it would be highest paid player at that type level of salary. There has to be a number where Liverpool go, we can't pay that. And I get it because he's Trent and he's the vice captain and stuff, and I'd love him to stay, and I hope Liverpool do pay, and whatever, it's not my money, pay him, whatever. But do you think there's someone somewhere with a calculator and a spreadsheet going, can you really pay your right back 400 grand a week? Because I imagine that goes against who's the highest paid right backs in the world now? I doubt any of them are on close to that.
Carvajal, Hakimi maybe.
Kimmich just signed, but he's more of a midfielder now. But 400 grand a week, I don't know if it is a money issue, but does that make sense? There might be someone somewhere going, there has to be, Mo Salah, we can go that high because he scores 30 goals a season. Arne Slot's right back, can we justify paying him that much money?
Yeah, I think there's someone definitely looking at it like that, but sort of upsetting the apple cart. If you're going to stick your right back on 400 grand a week, when some number 9 forward comes in for 80 million per se, how much are they going to want? You know what I mean? Luis Diaz is a good example of this. When we brought him in, we put him on, he's on a really poor deal, and he is, you know what I mean? He should be making a lot more money than he is, but he's tied into that until the end of the next season, and that was really good business from ourselves. But you go and give Trent a 400 grand a week contract as your right back, and then we do go and bring in a Julian Alvarez. How much is he going to want per week? Because he's a top player as well. You sort of then start upsetting the wage structure a bit, so it's really difficult. Just 2 points to touch on as well is sort of the FSG portfolio of clubs, the way they look at it. You're going to value the players as assets, aren't you? So if you lose in Trent, you're watching 150 million walk out the door, and it's not going to cost you that in wages to keep him on. That's the way you want to look at it. Even if it's just you sign him on for 2-3 years just to move him on, I can't do it. Players,
especially in Trent's case, that's absolutely.
I think, but it's worth mentioning. We don't know the ins and outs because Liverpool are quite good at keeping this. But all the reports suggest that he's been given offers and he's turned them down, and they've been big offers as well. So in that case, that can happen. This can happen to football clubs. Liverpool have found themselves through a little bit of bad luck, a little bit of really poor planning, and a little bit of upheaval with a new manager, all that kind of stuff, and they find themselves here now where they're probably going to lose £100 million plus asset for nothing.
And it's stupid. It's that, and it's not good business. And listen, Liverpool's owners, FSG, whatever you think of them, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, I'm not asked ultimately, they generally do decent business with some missteps along the way, but they absolutely do. And this is not that. This is the opposite of that. Whether it be Trent, Salah, Virgil van Dijk, 2 or all 3 of them, it's not pretty, because sell-to-buy models only work when you sell footballers. And letting any of them who at one point in their career, whether it be now or recently, were worth £100 million plus is silly. Even last summer, we had bids coming in for Salah, late in the window, albeit, of £100 million there or thereabouts, didn't we? We rejected them. All of a sudden, he might walk out the door for free. It's insanity to me. But yeah, it does feel as though I don't really blame Trent for sort of waiting, because there've been a lot of upheaval, as you mentioned there, in terms of sporting directors coming and going. Schmadko was in situ. He was never likely to sort these deals out. Let's tell you, right? It wasn't his remit ultimately. You know what I mean?
Klopp, get off. Why would you sign a new contract when you don't know them a new manager?
Exactly. You got to give it a bit of time to see what Liverpool 2.0 looks like, what Liverpool under Arne Slot looks like. But I've said it a few times already this season, I wonder whether that can has gone so far down the road now, because you're absolutely right to hold tight and say, let's just see come October, November, December, and then I'll make a decision. But that's been and gone now. All of a sudden, the Real Madrid been in his ear that much that his mind's made up. Exactly.
We were all waiting, where we remember it around Christmas time. We were all waiting, thinking, January. You know what I mean? End of January, start of January, somewhere in between there. That's usually when the contracts get tied up, because they can leave then. They're free to negotiate with other clubs, and everyone was we're approaching April now, and there's it's radio silence. So it's worrying. It really is worrying. It's terrifying, to be honest, because you're looking at a point where you're saying Arne Slot 2.0. This isn't even Arne Slot 1 really, because none of these are his lads, none of them. But you could be looking at a structure in the summer where you're looking at nine lads are going to have to come in for us even to be competitive. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely mad. So to summarise, Trent, pretty good season. Shame
if you put a number on it. If you put a number on it,
a ranking out of 10.
Yeah, I think we probably should do. Yeah,
7.5.
I was thinking that, funny enough.
I was going to go 8, a little bit higher.
Okay.
Some of the defensive, the Man United, I can't get out my head. City wasn't great.
No,
he's had a few but he's also had good games. But yeah, I think the best Trent games have actually been when he hasn't played, and you've noticed, my God, and then when he comes on as a sub, and you've gone, oh wow, that's what we've been missing.
That Newcastle sub performance was one of the best he's put in this season. He just changed the game totally.
I thought he was excellent against PSG the other day until he got injured. That's where we're at with Trent. Right, shall we spin the wheel again?
Let's do it.
Let's find out who's next.
Mo Salah, here we go.
Let's find out. Spin the wheel. We've got Alexis McAllister. Unsung hero, I was about to say, Luke, but everyone started singing his name now, because he's actually got a song, and he's earned it. One of the most unassuming footballers ever. Someone compared him the other day to not so much the player, but in terms of the status. I can't remember who it was on the show. I think it might have been Lewis, but I can't remember, so apologies, whoever it was. But Gini Wijnaldum-esque in the fact that he just kind of, another one who you forget he's there, but then when he's not there, you notice him, because I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but he's been pretty good, Alexis, so far this year. Yeah,
he's been absolutely brilliant, to be fair. And I think he was last year as well. And he sort of just carried that form on and come through. He's just very, very consistent. I would like to see him bomb on a bit and have more freedom and get a few more goals like he did for Brighton. But it's just one of them. The way the system works, he's not there to do that. But I think that's a part of his game where we haven't really utilised it, because he can be so creative and so dangerous, sort of getting into the box and arriving late. We've seen that when we bought him, and obviously he's got a few goals for his national team. I think the biggest detriment, the worst thing about Alexis McAllister is when he's on the international break, he comes back and he's absolutely knackered, because he's probably played at least a game and a half, and then he's got a 12-hour flight home. That's the only thing I could probably say bad about him, to be honest. He's been really good. He set up his Liverpool shop really well, and I'm hoping he's going to be here for many, many years to stay.
The interesting one's on, he's another one. He's played loads of games. He touch wood, he's stayed fit so far, but 42 games, 5 goals, 4 assists. Last year he played 46 games, scored 7, and got 7 assists as well, so 14 and 46. He's not far off that really in terms of his goal contributions, and hopefully he gets a few more. He's got hopefully 9 more games left for Liverpool to add to that as well. What he has done, because Luke's right, we would like to see him more in the box, but the goals he scored have been them getting himself in the box kind of things. I'm looking at Bologna, Real Madrid, Tottenham, Everton, Newcastle. There hasn't been that Alexis 40-yard whale like Fulham last year. I mean, it's been penalty box goals for the most part. That's been I think the main difference between last year. He was a 6 for a long time, and then he starts creeping forward. This year, Arne Slot's walked in day 1 and didn't have a number 6, and he's gone, well, you're playing there. I'll figure the rest out later. Probably goes to show where he clearly believes Alexis McAllister's more of an attacking player than a holding midfielder.
No, he is. He absolutely is. I actually think he's a complete midfielder, to be honest, which speaks to the Wijnaldum comparisons as well. I think he can do a little bit of everything. I do agree with Luke's point in that he's capable of more attacking numbers, I think. But again, he's just playing his role in the side. He's playing it superbly well. I think he's a wonderful footballer.
Good in the air, isn't he?
Love him. For a little guy, he's got a leap. Yeah, he's got a leap. I think he's brilliant. When you talk about the goals, I was thinking headers, because a couple of them I felt have been. Boss. Adore him. When I've ready to play a ranking show, he's always there or thereabouts in terms of the actual boss category, because he's just so consistent. It feels like it's very, very rare we speak about a bad Alexis McAllister game. I think those around him can grab the headlines and put in more eye-catching performances sometimes, but he doesn't dip below sort of your 7s, your 7.5s very often. I think obviously Liverpool generally have had decent games all season long. There's been one or two more recently that have definitely been below par, but when Liverpool play well and when Alexis plays well, they tend to come in unison, they tend to go hand in hand. He really makes us tick in there, and he's just so combative, so aggressive, got eye for a pass, very, very sort of creative force in there as well, keeps us ticking. Absolutely adore watching Alexis McAllister play for us. And one of the more, he's got sort of the Mascherano in him, not quite as feisty, not quite as sort of up for it, but he's still got that little side and a little bit of gnaw whereby if you're going at him, he'll get involved. In Darwin Núñez dragging him away from the situation the other night for Uruguay Argentina, so that was a thing. But I absolutely adore Alexis McAllister.
He also holds the record, Luke, for most times looking like your career's ended, and then you get back up and you're fine. Like there's about 3 or 4 times a game where he just looks like he's never going to play football again.
Luis Suarez, I think.
He does pick up a few nasty ones. You know what I was just thinking about is when
was in the walls.
When was the last time we had the World Cup winner in the side? You're like, well, they're holding it. It's got to be a long time, you know.
Who's the French fella?
Yeah. Do we have a French fella? Yeah.
He wasn't really. He wasn't even play, but he was. Yeah, I get your point.
The World Cup.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, but he's the interesting one. We've got a comment I've left it on the screen there from Dom who says he's the controller in the middle. He's also a monster in duels. That Luke, we don't know too much about Arne Slot because we're all learning about him, but we know the way he speaks in the media. That's definitely one thing he's always on about. It's the reason Gerald Quansah got hooked after at half time in his first game. It's like we weren't winning enough duels. It feels like the manager is a lot of it on them. It's like almost like win your battle. And like Dan said before, Alexis is one of the few where you can consistently. It's very rare he walks off and the other player opposite him had a better game than him.
Yeah, and I think the way he looks at it sometimes is man to man. So sort of like, you know, is there number 10 out playing your number 10? Or obviously we're not talking positions here, just talking getting numbers. And sort of, can you win your 1v1? Are you going to perform better than him? Are we going to outplay them on the park? Are we going to win the game? That's the way he looks at it. Instead of looking at it sometimes like, oh, we've got we got this right side, left side. Let's just go man for man. Let's just beat the person, put in front of you. And if you all do your job, we're going to win the game. And that's sometimes it's an easy way to look at. Sometimes that's how you look at it when you play Sunday League. You know what I mean?
The fundamentals of it, like
yeah. You just like right.
Win your battles.
Win your own personal battle, and the result will take care of itself. And I think sometimes in games, that's especially when you're coming in as like big favourites. That's the way you want to look at it. Sometimes you don't need to overanalyze. Obviously, we've seen on the other side of that games where it's all right. There's a clear tactical tweak, or there's this, or there's that. But against some of the lower sides, like Southampton at home the other week comes to mind, where we're sort of one down, and it's just like, you must have rocked them, just been, lads, go out there and just win your individual battles, and the result will take care of itself. Yeah. That's the sort of performance that it looks like, and he wins his 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, you touched on his minutes a moment ago. He's very durable as well. Touch wood on this, you know what I mean? Because you're right, he does often pick up knocks and bruises, and he's often in the walls, in the thick of it, I think it's fair to say. But since he arrived at the football club, he's been available more often than not. Like, again, another genuine Wijnaldum trait he seems to got, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. He's absolutely wonderful. And just to clarify, I've got some stuff on his duels here, because I was reading Alexa. So in terms of his duels and his ball possession and all that kind of stuff, I'll scroll down if you can see it on the screen there. Like, he wins over 50% of his ground duels. When he loses, it's more in the air. That brings him down a little bit, because he's only a short lad. Well, he's only a little fella, but it's more often than not, if there's a 50-50, it's a genuine 50-50 with Alexis. Yeah. Where for a fella his size, Dan, actually the odds are against him to win those kind of things. It goes back to what you said before. He can tackle, but he gets stuck in. He's got that. Yeah, he's got a little bit of dog in him.
He's not going to shirk anything. No, he's full-blooded. Absolutely is. And you need that in the midfield, don't you? Because that's the exact department whereby those battles are going to be won and lost. And I think there's lots of reasons Liverpool didn't beat Newcastle the other week, so it's put a damper on everyone, but like, not winning battles was a big reason as to why. Like, we were second best across the pitch there, and that was one of the days when McAllister didn't come to the party necessarily, but they're few and far between for me, honestly. He's been, out of all the midfield rebuild that we did, I love pretty much every element of it. I think McAllister's been the standout. Obviously, Dom Szoboszlai hits the ground running. Ryan Gravenberch has had a wonderful season. Obviously, Endo. But McAllister, pretty much since he arrived, has just been at a consistent level all the way, with brilliant performances too. A couple of dips, but generally speaking, he's just been plug and play. He's been exceptional.
Do you want to give him a number out of 10?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would probably put him at about an 8.5.
I think I'll go 8.5. I want him a little bit higher than Trent. Then obviously I put Trent as an 8. So
he's been one of the most consistent performers. I think. Yeah, I think I would agree. I think most games he's an 8 out of 10 every game. So therefore, he's probably an 8 out of 10. I agree. He can score more goals, and I think that's probably that is the next development in his game. But yeah, I think he's been absolutely fantastic. We will spin the wheel again very shortly. Got a couple of quick messages I want to give you before we do, though. First of all, our Redmen Plus subscription service. If you want even more wonderful Liverpool content in your lives, including tomorrow's Bias Football podcast, go on over to redmenplus.com. If you join now as a yearly Captain subscriber and use the promo code POD, P-O-D, you'll get 50% off your year's subscription. So it's an absolute bargain. It works out at less than £2 a month, and there's loads of good stuff coming. Hopefully some title celebrations as well. We don't want to jinx it yet, but that's all to come. A year's worth of content for half price if you want to get involved. Help support us, get yourself some wonderful stuff, and like I say, while the international break's on for another week or so, there's loads of stuff to backfill your time with there. There's loads of evergreen content, interviews, documentaries, the LFC draft, which is a good series, my Liverpool debut, which is another fantastic one. So yeah, if you need a Liverpool fix, that is the place for you to go. What I'll do, I'll spin the wheel, we'll go to a quick break, and then we'll chat about whoever this player is going to be. So let's have a little look who we're going to be speaking about. After the break, we're going to be speaking about Jarell Quansah. So do come back and join us and the Jarell Quansah chat after this quick message. Chiesa.
Hey you, do you like Liverpool Football Club? Do you love Liverpool signed merchandise? Well, have I got a prize for you this month. It is this absolute beauty. Let's start on the back. Let's show you the front. Yes, $89.90 replica shirt signed by John Barnes. Yes, John Barnes. That shirt can be yours. It's a very simple competition to enter. Head to redmenplus.com, sign up as a legend tier subscriber, and not only will you get full access to all of our amazing suite of content and our exclusive Discord group and discounted and free merchandise, you'll be in the prize draw to win that incredible shirt as well. redmenplus.com, legend tier status. Get on it.
Yes, welcome back. Go and become a Redmen legend, yeah. John Barnes signed shirt. That is a very good prize. We can tell it's legit because Dan, you were the one who got to sign.
No, yeah, that's true, yeah. It's legit. I've seen him do it.
Yeah, literally with your own eyes.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
You can trust Dan Club with your life. His
COA,
word.
is that what they call it? COA? Certificate of Authenticity.
I
am that.
You are, yeah. Your voice is
you just
that.
club
of
authenticity. Yeah, is that a thing? Yeah.
Listen,
it is.
Yeah. You can trust Dan with your life. He's a man of his word. Right then, Jarell Quansah time. Let's speak about Jarell Quansah. Dan, cast your mind back to the first game of the season. Jarell Quansah's in the team and Ibu Konate's on the bench. 45 minutes later, that's reversed.
Not the case. Yeah.
And since then, Jarell has found that he hasn't been able to get back in for the most part. He's played injuries and maybe rotational games have been when he's found his chance to shine, and it's fair to say he struggled in some of those. You know, those early League Cup games were a real tricky one. I remember, own goals and mistakes, and it felt like it wasn't quite going Quansah's way. He is in the England setup, so he's obviously got something going for him, but I think if you asked him deep down, he's probably a bit disappointed with how things have gone this year.
I would say so, yeah. Certainly off the back of what was a meteoric rise last season, wasn't it? A real breakthrough campaign. Out of nowhere, really. Had a decent spell alone at Bristol Rovers. Nobody was really suggesting he was going to be a sort of a part, or certainly a pivotal part of Klopp's plans. And then, lo and behold, there he was, more or less all season long. Again, injuries played a part as to why. And then he starts the season, as you say, in Slot's plans, clearly. Starts the first day down at Ipswich, and I don't know whether that was just sort of a continuation of what had gone on, or whether Arne sort of like what he's seen in pre-season, or I'm not exactly sure. But what I will say on that is, if I was Ibu Konate, heir to Van Dijk's throne, or heir to sort of being amongst the best centre-halves in Europe, and maybe even across the globe, that should have pissed Konate off. He should have been looking at that and going, this isn't right. And really sort of questioning his own performances and his own sort of displays in training and what have you, because obviously it was the Everton one last year whereby he was really poor and off it and lost loads of battles to come back to that, and I think obviously Quansah kind of saw out the season thereafter. But yeah, it's been a difficult one for Jarell. I think obviously limited opportunities since then. He's coming at right back every now and then. He's done a decent job at times there. I thought he was okay against PSG recently. He's had limited opportunities. I think Europa League not being in that competition hasn't helped him necessarily as well compared to last season. But yeah, I think he's turned it round recently, because you touched on it there, Steve. Like, it felt like for a bit everything he did went wrong. Like any mistake resulted in a goal against us, and that isn't always the case for every single defender in world football, you know what I mean? But it felt like every time Quansah just slightly fucked up, it was in the back of the net, you know what I mean? So I felt a little bit for him in that instance, but give him his credit and give him his due. He stuck at it, and now he's back in the England reckoning. So
it's interesting though, because he does start that game. Obviously, he comes off at half time. He then doesn't play a game then until we play West Ham at home. So that was August 17th. He doesn't play at all then until September the 25th, and then he doesn't play again until October 30th. That's Brighton, and that's the League Cup. And by the way, he makes an error, so he scores no goal against West Ham. He's a little bit unlucky in that one. Then he has the error, and then he's in and around it a little bit. But the thing that you have to mention here is, like, Ibu Konate got injured, and it was Joe Gomez who went in. So he went. The manager saw something, whether it's in 45 minutes or in training, where he went from opening day of the season, he was in the team, and then he was fourth choice. Like, there's obviously something between what Quansah was doing and what Arne Slot wanted that he's identified very quickly, and just thought at that time it wasn't for the manager.
Yeah, I think if you cast your eye back to the start of the season, and you sort of think about that pre-season, Konate's not around for half of it, isn't he? He's with France. And obviously Slot, pre-season, you're not playing with that same intensity. Is there a question mark here that maybe Slot misjudged the intensity of the league? Ipswich, newly promoted side, they were always going to come and be quite physical. And he got dragged off, quote unquote, he weren't winning his individual battles. Was the game too physical for him then? Was it just like, he's a big physical lad. Was it just, it's the first game of the season, I'm struggling to get into it, you know what I mean, and find my rhythm? Is there an element to that? Is it an element of Slot maybe shouldn't have started him in, maybe it was a bit too much for him, sort of, because he's already putting doubters in the back because of saying Konate's on the bench, Jarell Quansah start, and you're suddenly going, there's a lot of pressure on me, I need to perform, and then when you don't perform and it starts going down the pan, then you come off at half time. That sort of runs on the back of your mind for a while, and I think we've seen that sort of dragged on. The unlucky own goal, the poor performance at Brighton, we've sort of seen that play out. Maybe it was a little bit too early for him to be thrown into the fire ahead of the star names that were there. The upturn of him is at right back, I thought he's been really good. Even at Paris the other night, I know we get beat, but he comes on for Trent, and I thought he played really well. And even in the cup final, I thought he did all right. Obviously, he could stop the cross for one of the goals, but I don't think any of them put like a massive foot wrong in the final. It was just like a tired and effortless performance. It was almost like we were tired and ran out of ideas, rather than everyone was terrible and we were all making individual mistakes. I think he's been okay, and I think he's going to find his feet again, and Liverpool have gave him a new contract, so we've reinvested back in him, we believe in him, so I don't think we're ready to give it up on him quite yet. Let's see what he can turn up in the future.
It is worth mentioning, he's played 22 games this season, 11 starts, 11 off the bench, but if you look at the starts, then with all due respect to him, it was very early on, and then it's League Cup games, it was Accrington in the FA Cup, it's Plymouth in the FA Cup, Lille in the Champions League was one where he did start. I think there was injuries around there. Liverpool were looking after players.
Dead rubber territory as well, wasn't it? Territory as opposed to what.
We were getting close.
Towards the end.
In terms of the bench, he's come off the bench loads in the Premier League, again often at right back at this moment in time. It just feels like this is what happens to young players. It's never that in terms of it's easy pickings, you know what I mean? Like, most players go in out, especially at centre half. It's really tough. But the question is this stuff at right back doing him any favours? Because it's good that he's getting game time. Don't get me wrong, but he's not a right back. Like, he's got the defensive capabilities to stand and do a job, and he is fast. So he gets up and down the line.
Covers the ground.
But he's not a right back, and he's doing a job for the team, and fair play to him. Like, so listen, he's playing for Liverpool, he'll be fine. But I do wonder long term, it's like, is this any good for him? Kind of, because you'd rather, if you're him, you're thinking get me in a centre-half, and he just can't.
No, that's his natural position, obviously. Listen, all being well, I'm sure he'd much rather be playing there. But it'd be interesting to speak to somebody like Carra, wouldn't it, about playing full-back and then being a centre-half as well, and whether that did him any favours. Maybe it adds to his game a little bit, you understand. Maybe defensive IQ goes up a notch or two playing out there, knowing what it's like to go up against wingers, because the way Liverpool play, even on the slot, you know, the right back does vacate that position sometimes. We've seen Joel Matip in the past and Konate had to cover over there, so maybe it will stand him in good stead in years to come. It's interesting that, but I think he's still got a very, very bright future. He took everything in stride last season. Again, I touched on it a moment ago, like he, you know, outdid any of our expectations last year. Let's have it right. Like the fact that he was even thought of highly enough to start ahead of Konate to start the season, regardless of what happened after 45 minutes, is something. He's clearly a player. There's clearly something there. He's got all the physical attributes. I think there've been mistakes along the way. There was one last year. Was it Bruno Fernandes scored when he just laid a pass inside and away he went? That's just one of them things. Like he's had his rough with the smooth, I think, already, and it's how you respond to those setbacks and how you deal with that and sort of carry on striding forward that makes a player. And we're seeing that in the very early throes of Trent Quansah's career. And I think to date, he's dealt with it pretty well. Even you mentioned it there, like coming on in that circumstance against PSG with the game on a knife edge against Kvaratskhelia, you know, Barcola, Dembele. Thought he equipped himself really well, actually, in the circumstances. Nearly scored as well at the post, yeah. So, yeah, I think dodgy start, tough start, but I think he's done okay.
He's recovering, but
You're not sold there, are you?
I think he's a good centre-half. I don't know if it's confidence, a style of play thing. The manager was right to do it. Listen,
I think he can play a bit, you know.
He can play, no, but I'm saying this, but I think it's the duels thing. And listen, Konate and Van Dijk have been excellent, and Liverpool are probably going to win the Premier League, so the manager's decisions, he's been fully justified in it. Can you learn that? I don't know. Is it just inherent that he's just a different type of player? Can you learn to go and get? Can you learn to win your duels? Is it an experience thing? Because
there's probably his body position and stuff too. There is stuff to be learned probably from Konate. Can I just say though, you kind of said it a moment ago, like that season he's had there is completely normal for a 22-year-old centre-half.
No, I would say if 2 years ago Luke had said to Gerald Quansah, you'll have played over 50-odd games for Liverpool. You know, he's on loan at Bristol Rovers. And then he plays, I'm just checking now, he's played 55 times now for Liverpool since the start of 2023. Obviously, injuries get him in the team, and he's by the end, again, he's in it on merit. He'd be sound with it. But it is the ups and downs of a footballer's career. You're like, it's never just a straight line upwards all the time. Because like this, if you said this time last year, Gerald Quansah, you're going, oh yeah, it's time to push on. He's had a good start. It just doesn't work for him.
Yeah, it just doesn't work for him. You bang on. It's never linear. If it's linear, usually you've got an absolute hero coming in on your hands. Trent Alexander-Arnold. You know what I mean? He come into the side and it was linear pretty much until he sort of, maybe 18, 19, he starts to level out a bit, and then we've seen this real player that we've got on our hands. I don't think he's going to be this superstar in the next 2 years to come, but there's nothing to say that in 5 years' time he couldn't be the starting centre-back for Liverpool. He could really go on and be that. It's just, we've got to invest time. So I think all minutes are good minutes for him at the minute. Yeah. Like you've touched on with the football IQ thing, him being out there right back, coming up against wingers, it's just going to give him a different aspect. And then if he goes back and takes that to centre-back, there's nothing to say, you know, situational, they're on the break, it's a, you know what I mean, they're running through, it's 3v2, stuff like that. It's all going to be useful to his game. I think he would have slapped your hand off if you told him that 2 years ago. I think he would have took your hand off, because he was nowhere near the side. No, half the people probably didn't even know who he was. And he's got a nice little narrative. He's got a nice story. He got Klopp's final goal, didn't he? Yeah. Let's just.
He's won final. Like,
he's done well.
He's done all right.
I always got to revert back to a conversation I had with him. Obviously, I do like our loan watch shows here, don't I? I had a conversation with Jeff Twentyman, whose dad was a legendary Liverpool figure, about Quansah, because he would work down in Bristol and covered Bristol Rovers a lot of the time. And he said to me, again, he was barely known to anyone at the time, including me, by the way. And he said, I think he's got a chance. I think he'll play for Liverpool. And I just kind of took it as like a throwaway comment. And then look what he's done, you know what I mean? So there's definitely something there.
He's 22 years old. He's got the pace. He's got the frame. He looks like a centre half. Yeah. He's got to put it all together, and he'll learn. And also, it's worth mentioning the last one down before we go on to it. And maybe we are making excuses. And listen, I'll always make excuses to Liverpool players because I try and look as positive as I can do. He spent his entire life really growing up, his formative years under the Jurgen Klopp method. It wasn't all under Jurgen Klopp. But Jurgen Klopp, you know this more than anyone, the roots of Jurgen Klopp went right into the academy. Yeah. So from 2015 up until he made his debut in 2023, I think it was, Gerald Quansah, it was all Jurgen Klopp's way of playing. It was different. And then also Arne Slot's coming, and it is a bit different. And I wonder maybe it's just a little bit, Harvey Elliott might be going through this a little bit as well. Another young player who's played loads, but you've got to adapt, you've got to change. Like what you were asked to do under Jurgen Klopp might just be completely different than what Arne Slot wants.
Yeah, and these aren't players that have done that previously in their career. This is the first time for them, as you kind of mentioned.
They have one manager.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas
style.
you sign somebody, Szoboszlai, use him. He's already had 3 or 4 different managers.
Salah's played for 5 different managers.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is different, absolutely, and you're absolutely spot on in what you say about the academy, because it drips down. I've seen it this year. I've seen the change been noticeable, actually, how all of a sudden they are tweaking things and they're playing the way Slot wants to play now. Because I did wonder whether it would be a carte blanche, we were just going to carry on the way we were, whether the managers, Barry Lutus, Mark Wilkinson, would be able to put their own stamp on teams. No, it's just an Arne Slot style of football now that the 18s and 21s have adopted. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and it might have just meant a little change in Joel Quansah's thinking and his processes and what have you. And I think that was sort of the big talking point around pre-season, wasn't it? I remember I spoke to Conor Bradley during one of the pre-season games. It was like, how have you found working under the new manager? Any tweaks, any changes? And that was always the message that Curtis Jones spoke about it a lot, didn't he? How it suited his game more. So for those players, certainly in Curtis Jones' case, was more of experience. Even he had to adapt. So you can imagine how it would have been for Joel.
Absolutely.
Just a quick theme before we close. We've been doing loads of future planning, haven't we? Do you reckon if you look at future planning, there's a world where he's the third choice next season, dependent on if we recruit?
Can I say he's like the perfect Joe Gomez?
Yeah, well, he is.
This is what I'm at, right, is that there's a lot of talk about Dean Howson, isn't there, moment 19.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I still think if you asked Arne Slot, he would want Joel's 4th choice next year.
Okay.
And to have, if you sign a 19-year-old or 20-year-old centre-half, okay, fine, I get it. But then you're going in with hopefully Virgil van Dijk, hope he stays, with not qualified. Ibu Konate, top player, but a little bit injury prone, and then 2 real young defenders. Yeah. Joe Gomez is the perfect person to have if he could stay fit. Yeah. If you could get a fitter Joe Gomez, someone who's experienced, because having 2 really young centre-halves at the same time, I think I usually want you're starting 2, a real dependable backup, and then your young lad who you're development. That's the thing with me. I don't think he's ready to be third to next in line yet. And I haven't seen nothing this season that's made me think otherwise. I think he maybe needs 1 more year, but we'll see how it pans out. How would you rate him out of 10? I would say 5.
5? I'm not going to be I'm high.
I haven't been impressed. Like I'm a big fan. I like him. I've seen more bad. I've seen more bad than good from Joel this year, and I'm a big fan. And I think it can be better, but just purely based on what I've seen, I'm going to say 5.
I was going to say 6. I think if you'd asked me this a month and a bit ago, maybe I'd have been with you. But I think he's recovered well, and I think there's a lot in that. We're not talking about a 27-year-old seasoned, been around the block. This is a young lad who's still sort of wet behind the ears, learning his trade. I think he's done okay.
I think I'm at a 6 as well. I've seen many worse players play for Liverpool than him. So.
Yeah,
certainly ones at the academy.
Yeah, maybe I've just got high expectations of him.
Listen, he hasn't lived up.
I think he'll play 200 games for Liverpool. I think he will. And I think he'll be great. But I think it's been a learning curve for him.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest, I don't think the right back stuff's doing any favours. I don't think he should play.
He's
there.
doing us a lot of favours.
He is, but I don't think he should be there. I think he should play someone else there.
Well, the alternative is a DM. We spoke about this a bit recently.
I would play someone else there.
Would you?
Someone who's good on the ball.
I agree with you all putting that, by the way, minutes and minutes.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think... Listen, unless you're doing something wildly out of this, like playing up top. That's you know what I mean? But Stephen Corker, I think that's right.
I understand your point, yeah, absolutely. Right, shall we spin the wheel again? Let's find out who we're going to speak about. Let's go. Here we go. We're spinning it. Errol's favourite player, Federico Chiesa. We have...
Could have been worse. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah.
This... I mean, go and check out Errol's tweets, because Errol's got a bit of bottom.
Medal worthy.
I think Errol said he shouldn't be on the bus, which I think was harsh from my friend and co-host. Even I was a bit like, you know that meme where the fella takes a step back and goes, I'm staying out of this one.
Nothing to do with
me. The only summer signing we made, Luke. Of all these players on the list, he's played 11 games, a lot of them off the bench. We just haven't seen him. It's as simple as that. We haven't seen anything other than fleeting glimpses of, oh wow, there's something there. And then sometimes it's, oh my God, there's nothing there at all. Like, it's fair to say it was a gamble that they took in the summer. It was a guy coming off an injury, relatively low fee. There's clearly something there, but I want to, just what's your thoughts on Chiesa? Because I don't know.
I really like Chiesa. I wanted to play more. I do really wanted to play more. I think every performance he's put in besides Plymouth, I think he's really shown he's still got that player in him, and he looks quick. And I think something Liverpool are lacking at the minute is pace up top, and he does look relatively rapid, if you ask me. The problem is he hasn't been able to showcase his full ability, because whenever he gets a run in the side, it's not like he hasn't got the players around him. It's really easy to look great in the side when you've got McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Salah, Trent at right back. If you're playing in that side rather than playing with Conor Bradley, what's the young guy's name? McConnell. Yeah, give out, the Accrington lineup that we had out. McConnell in the midfield. The same with PSV away. You've got Jayden Danns beside him up top. Yeah, they're all really good footballers that play for Liverpool, but they're not world class talent that we're gonna have got us at the top of the Premier League. I think if he gets some minutes with them sorts of lads, even if it's just 20, 30 minutes off the bench, we'd start to be able to see this player he's going to be, and then make our judgment call on, right, this fella's going to be great for Liverpool, or, yeah, we've probably missed the boat a bit on this one.
The point remains, Dan, and some of this is injury related, we know that. There was an injury, there was an illness, all that kind of stuff, but the manager's only picked them 11 times, and that's appearances. That doesn't even start. He started 3 games.
Well, the minutes are
nothing. There's been nothing there. It's been like, oh shit, might as well do something. Like in the final, we might as well throw Chiesa on. There was a couple of those here and there. Either he's not fit enough, which we heard that might be the situation, but the manager's been pretty ruthless with all his changes, and if he thinks you're good enough for your player, and for some reason he hasn't picked Chiesa at all, not even on the bench. Like if everyone's been fit and he's had a squad of 20, number 21 and 22, Chiesa's been one of them. So is that a fitness thing? Is that he just doesn't fancy this lad thing? Who signed this fella? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it definitely was a fitness thing in the early stages of the season, because he clearly came not ready, because he didn't have a pre-season at all with Juve, did he? And then Liverpool give him like a mini pre-season around October time, I want to say it was, something like that. So it's clearly trying to get him up to speed. We might have seen him twice up until that point, and again, handfuls of minutes on either occasion. I think more recently, it's actually been... we use the word trust a lot when it comes to Arne Slot and the players, and I think he's got the lads that he trusts now, and because of his lack of availability, lack of fitness, lack of reliability in the early season, Slot was never able to call on him because he wasn't ready. And now we've gotten to a stage whereby we are where we are in the Premier League, we were where we were in Europe, and obviously the Carabao Cup as well, and he just hasn't seen enough of Chiesa to be able to throw him into most situations. Like, he has been that sort of what he was sort of billed as a signing, a bit of a wild card, a bit of potential X factor, and that's all Slot's seen him as, and he's only seen fit to use him on 11 occasions, clearly, because it's important to remember that a lot of the time when they're recovering from matches and stuff like that, that's the players that have played. Obviously they'll do recovery sessions, whilst the lads that were involved train completely separately. Now Slot might not be really privy to those training sessions either. Like, that's a different team entirely, it's a different coaching setup entirely, so he's not even really seeing him day in day out on the training pitch necessarily either, certainly not when we're in the midst of a game every 3 days, you know what I mean? So it's been difficult for Chiesa, it really has. I was delighted with the signing. I thought, a lad who was once touted as a £100 million footballer, lit up the Euros, won it for his nation basically, like, that's a hell of a signing for that price, but it's never really come to fruition. There have been glimpses. I thought he was good in the final when he came on, took his goal, lovely, tracking back to the halfway line, win the ball back, that was boss, but yeah, it's hard to see where we go from here, really, because it feels like, any minutes he gets between now and the end, they're going to be sort of like sympathy, handout minutes, hopefully with the title
you say that, mate,
up. Right. They are, it's just where we're at.
No, can I rebut a little bit?
Of course.
Is what we saw in the cup final, which again was 1-1, and I get it, but one thing I will say about him is that every time he gets on the pitch, he is direct and he shoots, and he's clearly got a goal in him. Yeah. I mean, he's only scored a couple of them for us, don't get me wrong, and he's had a couple of real stinkers. Plymouth it was a stinker. I
have a real issue with that game.
He was really poor. Like, he should have been the best player on that pitch by a mile, or one of them, and he was really poor. But you go back to it. Sometimes all it takes is a moment for a player to catch a manager's eye. Can you just do something somewhere where you okay, because Liverpool, in terms of number 9s at this moment in time, are struggling for goals. Even on the left, they haven't scored too many. All the goals have recently come from Mohamed Salah. I wonder if that goal in the cup final, Dan, to put it back on your toes, is like, maybe Arne Slot goes, hang on a minute, because we've seen this happen before. All it takes is a moment where a manager just has a little rethink on you. And there are 9 games to go. Is there a world where we see 5, 6, 7 Federico Chiesa appearances between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not against that at all.
But do you think it will happen?
No, it feels unlikely. Okay. It feels really unlikely. I think Slot's got his mind made up, more or less, on who the lads are. And listen, the final may well have put a little thought into his head, but I think that ship sailed personally. And I'm not against it either, like I say, because the 9 thing's definitely a thing. The left, I think we're pretty much nailed on. I'm okay with Gakpo. Certainly a fit Gakpo when he looked back to fitness for the Netherlands the other night, which was good. He wasn't prior to that, of course. Chiesa can do it. He's done it in the past. He's done a lot of false nine stuff in the past for Juventus, and he has a lot of the attributes. Maybe not quite the facilitator you want in there. I'm not sure about that element of his game, but he's got loads and loads of attributes that you really would want to see, and I really like him as a footballer. You said there, his first thought is always, again, to come back to what we said about Trent, how can I hurt the opposition? He wants to be direct. He wants to get at people. He wants to get shots off a goal. That's not a bad thing in an attacker. Far from it. I was left bitterly disappointed, underwhelmed by that Plymouth performance. And not just because we got beat and we were fucking shit. It was because, a lot of people came out of that, and Luke touched on it earlier on about who was playing alongside, and I get that. But if I'm Federico Chiesa, I've played in sport down the years, and I've been involved in situations like that, and I think, okay, I don't really want to be playing in this game right now, but I've got to prove a point. This is an opportunity for me to get in the manager's eye and to say to Arne Slot or whoever it may be, you picked me in this game, but this is not where I want to be. Yeah. I want to be playing week in, week out in the games that really, really matter with the first team, with the big lads. Go and do it then. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm Chiesa, I'm thinking, win this game of football. Liverpool are stinking the gaff out. Take the game by scruff and neck and win it. And we just didn't see it. It's that really... And I think for Slot as well, actually, because you're right,
he didn't play from that moment on.
For weeks.
Until
and Elliott was in a similar boat. But then,
he lost it with a few of them, didn't he?
Yeah, but then Elliott gets a chance and he comes on and scores maybe in the game. So you are right, there is opportunities to re-get into his thinking. Absolutely there are. But I think the Plymouth one was a big one missed for Chiesa.
Just to play devil's advocate on that Plymouth point, is there an element here if Chiesa's come in, he's come from Serie A, I'm not clued up on Serie A, I'm not going to pretend I am, but is the gulf in playing a Serie B side to this, like a Serie A side, and you pulling him in a cup side, do you reckon there's a bigger gulf there, and maybe it's a misjudgment in his own performance?
He thinks going to be a cakewalk.
Half an hour, he thinks he's going to come on and think, this is going to be walking football.
He's got to realise that quicker though for me, and listen, it became pretty apparent after 15 minutes of that game, it wasn't going to be. So adapt and be the. You said it a minute ago, best player on the pitch. He should have been. No, he should have won the game for us, and he never.
It's the question I'm going to put to you then, Luke, and I'll come to you next on it. It's like, should we see more of Chiesa from now to the end of the season, in your opinion? And if so, is that number 9 thing a genuine possibility where Núñez is struggling a little bit? We know that. Jota is having probably the worst spell of his Liverpool. And this is a guy who went a year without a goal, but there was a lot of injuries in there. It wasn't quite going, but Jota looks a little bit off it. You know, he's had 2 shots in 2 games that are nearly at the corner flag. You know, it just hasn't gone Diogo Jota's way. I mean, Liverpool play Everton in a week or so's time. Like, is Chiesa number 9 like something you'd be potentially up for seeing? Would you like to see that?
I'd love to see him in the 9 because we've got issues there. We need someone who's going to be the break glass solution. And I thought that break glass solution was Jayden Dance. And evidently it wasn't, and the manager didn't fancy that brother, and we loaned him out or whatever we've done. But now there's another chance now to go and sort of try that break glass. You can give him a game or 2 and to see if anything comes from it, because we need some sort of change, because we've got the 9 problem's the biggest issue at the moment. Will I believe he do it? Absolutely not. I don't think he'll do it, because he's been so stubborn all the way through. I believe more if he gave Jayden Dance like I'm running the side of 1 or 2 games and then it didn't work out for him and we loaned them out. If that happened, I'd be like, well, there's nothing against putting Chiesa in. Will we see an appearance or 2 from the bench? Likely. Will it be in the 9? Unsure. Will he get enough appearances to get a medal if we do win it? I'm still not sold. Does he need 4?
I think if they win it,
3 more.
I think if they win it soon enough, I think they'd just give them those ones that Dan said before about like getting to make sure he
just
gets
the handouts,
which is not. It's not the thing, but like
not what he wants.
Do you want to see more of him between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. Yeah, because he's a player. And he plays for Liverpool, and he's really exciting. He's the type of player.
But then, it's worth mentioning, and go back to it. If he plays, someone else doesn't.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's the 9.
It's the 9. It's got to be the 9.
And also, I'll add to that. Sorry, the need to give Salah a break isn't quite as strong as maybe it would have been had we still been in Europe.
Yeah.
But I still think there's chances to get Salah off the pitch in certain games. Now, listen, he will hate me for saying that because he's chasing all kinds of records, obviously. But I do think maybe there's 20 minutes, half an hour here and there where you can just swap him for Salah. But if we are sort of thinking what's most beneficial for Liverpool, and maybe there's some long-term thinking in this, it's the 9, because I think we're all a bit, uncertain about what that looks like next year. Why not try Chiesa there? Because we might be living in a world where we don't have Núñez, we might not have Jota, who knows? We might not have an answer at all. Chiesa could be part of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd want to see him more as well. Let us know in the comment section. Do you agree? Would you like to see a little bit more Federico Chiesa in your lives going forward? It couldn't really be much worse, could it? Yeah, he's quick.
Number.
How'd you get that number? I've got no idea. I'm the host. I'll put it on your toes.
Yeah, I wish you never said it now. I go 6.5.
What?
The sample size we have seen, I've been relatively impressed, bar Plymouth, obviously, which was dreadful.
Okay.
His goals to minutes ratio is actually okay.
Yeah, his goals to minutes all right, but I think there must be something underlying there that we don't know about what's going on. I think it's a 5.5. I'm going to put it.
I'd say 5 as well. He hasn't done anything. Like, it's been so underwhelming. Like,
He hasn't played.
That's not all on him.
That's my point.
That's not his fault, is it?
Well, it is. It clearly is. If he's good enough, he'd play. If he was good enough, he'd play. That's my thought. Let us know your thoughts on Chiesa. What mark would you give him out of 10? Right, do you want to do one more before we shoot off?
Yeah,
Spin the wheel one more time. Let's go. Spin it. Like a record, baby. Spin it, spin it, spin it. Curtis Jones. Let's finish with Curtis Jones then. Dan, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Interesting season.
I don't like that.
No, listen.
Is that interesting, parentheses, positive, or interesting, parentheses, negative?
I think positive.
Okay.
I think positive. Listen, the Chelsea performance is the performance, isn't it?
He's had some big games.
Massive
really
games,
good.
yeah. His role is a fascinating one to me. I've forever been really intrigued by Curtis Jones as a senior footballer for Liverpool because I watched a lot of him in the academy and he was the guy, like absolutely the guy. Like give the ball to him and he will win a game of football for you. He left winger extraordinaire, just the captain side, just the absolute lad. Like it looked as though every time anyone got the ball, they had to find Curtis Jones and he just let magic happen. And he's adapted a lot, I think it's fair to say, since he sort of broke into the first team. And I think this season's been another adaptation for him. We spoke earlier on about how he discussed the positives around his game and slots football and how it did suit him more. I tend to agree with that. His use has been interesting. Obviously, swapped out and changed with Szoboszlai a little bit in that more advanced player. I actually think he's probably better suited to being more the 8 and swapping from McAllister a little bit more personally. I think Elliott's actually a better replacement for Szoboszlai. But yeah, listen, ultimately, I think he's had a good season. He's had some big moments along the way as well, some big performances, as you mentioned. Loads of energy, covers more ground than people give him credit for. I think his out-of-possession stuff's quite impressive too. So he's in that. Whenever we talk about Liverpool midfield, we speak about the 4, don't we? And he's rightly in that conversation for me. I would have him just as the 4th. I think we're not quite set on him being part of the front line one. But yeah, he's definitely in the round it.
He's played 37 games. Luke, that's the most he's ever played in a single season for Liverpool. And by the way, there's 9 games to go, and I'm guessing he's going to feature in those. He's got 6 assists. That's more than he's ever had in any season. He's only got 3 goals, and I think that's another one where the manager spoke about. He spoke about Dominic Szoboszlai, didn't he? He said, if you play attacking midfield for Liverpool, you probably need to score more goals. Now, Curtis's goals, all really good ones. Again, penalty box goals. Like Chelsea, back post, Newcastle, front post, Leicester, front post. When Liverpool was struggling in that game, it's worth mentioning. That is the one thing I think we'd all agree is that, you probably, if you're going to play in that attacking midfield role for Liverpool, and it looks like for Arne Slot, he wants goals in that position. That's something that probably Curtis needs to think about more of adding to his game. Again, it's not easy, easier said than done, but it feels like goals are the only thing that's properly lacking at this moment in time. Yeah,
but I feel like that's same for most of them, Joe. Yeah. Even though we have, not to drag them midfield, I think they've all been really brilliant this year, but I think that's same for most of them. They are lacking goals, and is that a style issue? You know what I mean, or not? Is he getting enough chances?
Just quickly on that, sorry, I did a show recently about this, and it's kind of where the goals come from in Slot's career, and attacking midfielders take up a large proportion of the spread of goals until he arrived at Liverpool, basically. His previous side, that 10 has scored, and he mentioned it himself, so it does sort of make sense. But
he put it on Szoboszlai's toes a little bit.
I don't think we've got enough goals in that position.
I agree, because again, they're big goals. And he's had some really good performances, and I don't want to take that away from him, Luke, because Dan's right. He's probably at this moment in time seen as the 4th. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai's the 3, and if anyone's injured or anyone needs a rest or if anyone needs something, Curtis will play.
Jones comes in, and I think that's probably something Curtis didn't really think about to start the season. I really thought Elliott and him were going to share the minutes. And that really hasn't been the case. The manager hasn't fancied Elliott at all. And Curtis is sort of like, sometimes he's the 8, he's coming on for Maka, sometimes he's coming on for Szoboszlai. And there's been periods of the game when he's had to drop into the 6 and Ryan Gravenberch has gone centre half. So he's played across the whole midfield. I think he's had a positive season. The only negative for Curtis Jones is, if I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, whose shirt am I taking here? Because he wants to be, if we're playing in a cup final tomorrow and you're naming your best Liverpool 11, Curtis Jones doesn't start. And he does, you know what I mean? He comes on off the bench at some points, but he wants to be the lad that starts. How does he make that next step? Whose shirt he's going to take? That's the hard part for him.
What should we guess do then? How does he do?
I think he's got to do what the manager says. If he's going to take Szoboszlai's shirt, he's going to have to get more goals and get in more areas and take more shots on goal. I think that's probably one of the main things. I can't see him.
There was a run of games around Christmas when he was in the team, and he was one of the best players. It's been more positive than negative on the Jones. He's had some bad games. Everyone's had bad games, Dan, but There was a while actually where it felt like it was his shirt.
Yeah. He's had times in his career where that's been the case, and injuries kind of curtailed that more often. That hasn't quite been the same this year. He's not quite as many little setbacks and little issues, which is really positive. That's one of the sort of the bright elements of his season, really. But yeah, I think he's had a really good campaign. I think he's been a real sort of important cog as to why we are where we are, and we're pretty pivotal with it, because we know we use the word trust early on when it comes to Arne Slot and his team selections. He definitely trusts Curtis Jones. That's one thing we can say about him, you know what I mean, which is great. That's a big tick in the box for him. Maybe that isn't the case for some others, like you mentioned Harvey Elliott there. So yeah, he's definitely in the rounded, but again, I think the uptick in output is where I'd be looking if I was him, because that could be the thing that makes him stand out from some. I think they both got it in their locker, by the way, to improve the numbers. But Curtis will probably be looking at, if I'm really going to be sort of a point of difference from Szoboszlai, that might be where it is.
Not that I ever want to get in the head of some people on the internet, but like there is a subsection of Liverpool fans who don't like him. Yeah. It's worth mentioning. Anytime I do a watch along, and if Liverpool are struggling, one of the first people who get criticised is get Curtis Jones off. What's he doing? What does he do? Curtis Jones. But like, two managers have liked him. The England manager clearly likes him. I mean, it goes back to Pep Landers said England's best midfield will be Curtis Jones, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham. Thomas Tuchel picked that the other day. Like that, he had that. It was the first chance he could have picked anyone, and he left certain players out, you know, who've been really good. So a couple of injuries here and there, I suppose, but the people within the club seem to like him. Externally, a lot of people seem to like Curtis Jones as well. What do you think it is again?
I think he's disproved them, and I think at one point there's people.
But why do people still like him? I don't get. I struggle with this one. I'm just wondering if you got any ideas.
He works really hard. He's an absolute workhorse. Do you think it's hard? I reckon it's really difficult to come into Liverpool. You know what I mean? He's a local lad. He's a Scouser, and he's essentially playing in the midfield, number 8, number 10. He's playing in the Gerrard role. The lad's not Steven Gerrard. It's big shoes to fill. There's not saying that he could go on to be a really good player for Liverpool, but he is not Steven Gerrard. Is that part of it? People say, he's not good enough because they're comparing that sort of aspect.
I think
I'm just trying to make an argument.
No, it's a good point. There.
I don't know what I'm saying. I've got no idea. People on the internet, if you're listening or watching this, feel free to let me know.
He's a championship player, ain't he, for ages? And I think he's disproved them massively. You know what I mean?
He's an international footballer. He's that level.
It's keeping hold of the ball, taking too many touches, and I do think that is something that creeps back into his game every now and then. He does revert to type on that sometimes. I actually think that stems from what I touched on earlier in terms of him wanting to be the guy to take the game to the opposition. Sometimes that actually be a benefit. If you need a bit more control, Curtis can provide that for you. He can be the one to just sort of grab hold of it and calm everyone down and just get possession of the footy. But there are also times whereby you do need the tempo, you need to move the ball quicker, and he can get caught on it. That is something that he still does. I don't know whether he's not in form, he's not quite sharp enough, he's come back from injuries or whatever, or he's just feeling his way into a game, he's come from the bench. I don't quite know what it is, but it's definitely a trait in his game that I think he needs to iron out, because it still happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, no one's perfect. I just don't know. I feel free to let me know in the comments.
Something different with Jones as well, just quickly. I think he's really connected with the fan base this season. And I think a lot of that's, he's done lots of like charity work with Liverpool, and there's been a lot of media with him like putting out. But also like there's a big world here where if Trent does go in the summer, Curtis is seen as like the senior scouser in the team. So there's a point for him to go out there and really connect with the fan base and be.
We always have. It's always nice when you got a scout in the team. If one's getting off.
No, absolutely.
And he's shown no signs that he wants to go anywhere. Dan, and so he said it last season. He spoke, and he got a bit of stick for his interview. And I think it was because he spoke to us and clarified what he meant. He said Arne Slot's football is going to suit me better, I think, than Jurgen Klopp's football. Have you seen that because I think this might be Curtis's best season, and I wonder if it is. There are some players who the change of manager and change of system hasn't worked for. Harvey Elliott, it's not worked at all for Harvey. Endo is another one. The manager it's not for him. There's been lads who have played, but maybe it hasn't quite worked out for them. Curtis Jones, he's probably looking at one of the moves. One of the main beneficiaries rather of Arne Slot taking over, I would guess.
I would say,
and he was playing low. He was playing low for Jurgen.
Yeah, Klopp loved him.
Klopp loved him, but it feels like the style of play might suit him a bit better.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that word control, doesn't it? I think that's what Curtis Jones brings to the party more often than not, as well as loads of quality as well. I think he's got loads of attributes that really sort of add to any game of football, to be honest with you, and any style, whether it comes to manager and profile wise. But yeah, I think this is definitely more up his street. I think the rock and roll, the heavy metal, the high intensity version that we had, he adapted to it, and he adapted to it really well. That's the other thing I think we often forget about Curtis. And again, it's how he's had to become a midfielder, and he has to sort of fit into a new position entirely. Because obviously burst onto the scene with that goal against Everton, and that was his arrival. I mean, maybe that did him no favours, because to arrive like that, you're setting the bar high, aren't you? Know what I mean? Like, everyone expects that every week. It's difficult to emulate it. But yeah, I think you're right. I think this new way of playing is definitely more him. And again, listen, it looks like we're going to have a pretty hard reset in the summer, maybe a bit of a mini exodus as well with some coming in. There's going to be a lot of flux. Curtis Jones might be one of the constant figures in amongst this, and he might have to be one of the more important lads moving forwards as well, because he's had a year on the slot now. He clearly understands what's required. He could be really, really important come next season.
Yeah, he's 24 years old, recently turned as well. He's played 170 times for Liverpool. He's fine. He's doing a good job. What is the future for Curtis Jones then? What does the future hold for him? How does he become a regular, like for example, Alexis McAllister just plays every game. What do we need to see, do you think, from Curtis? And do you see it happening over the next 12, 18, 24 months? Where's prime Curtis Jones, 25, 26 years old? What do you think his career's looks like? I think
there's a few different, if we're going to look at like different narratives and different outputs, there's a few different ways this can play out. There's a situation where Liverpool don't go out and buy 9 in the summer, and I know none of us want to believe it, but we've all seen it where like Liverpool have got a war chest, Liverpool have got loads of money, and then we buy nobody. And there's a world there where you can say, okay, can we play Szoboszlai up top? Can we sort of make that the way we played against City, sort of the way we play every week?
Blueprint, like.
Yeah, and then he doesn't need to displace anybody. He just slots in.
I'd hate that.
The other way, well, it's it's one argument.
Shiver down my spine. What you're saying is fine, fundamentally. But please don't repeat it ever again.
And the other argument is probably that, like we just touched on before with Dan, if his output improves, you can't leave him out. If he's got a massive output, he's got a massive uptick of goals and assists. You know what I mean? He's just got to go and take the shirt off somebody, and it's horrible because they're your teammates, but it's the ruthless nature of football that you've got to do.
And sorry, just on that there quick, he's done that more often than not in the book of it. I briefly mentioned earlier on, like whenever there has been an opportunity when it comes to injury, he's generally staked a pretty good claim to keep the shirt. Like even under Klopp, I'm going back, like he's performed to a pretty decent level whereby he has stepped in and gone, you're not getting the shirt back. I think he's up for that challenge and up for that fight. But then unfortunately, in previous iterations, it's been injury that's then knocked him out the side again. You know what I mean?
We've got a comment here from Rex who says Jones is a good squad player, nothing more, nothing less.
A lot of people think that.
This is a boring argument. This, it's so boring. This just runs on all the time. Like he's no better than a squad player. It's a boring argument.
I think he's better. He's better than that.
He would play for most Premier League sides. He'd start in the 11.
But this isn't most Premier League sides. I guess is the argument. You know what I mean?
I think say nothing. I think it's disrespectful. I think he's better than that. But the wonder is, can he get himself? Like say, I don't know what time recording. He's probably going to start again for England tonight. You would think. Yeah, like if he's going to be in England's best team, and I listen. England are the greatest team in the world. Don't get me wrong, but like you must have something going for you. You're not shite if you're an international footballer playing 170 games for Liverpool. Like you've got to have something going for you. So, I'm trying to think the best way to frame this. How would you rank his season so far, and what you see the rest of the season? What does he need to do? What do you think he's going to do?
I'd give him a 7.5 for the season so far. Yeah. Personally, I don't disagree with that comment, by the way, because ultimately me saying he's the fourth choice, that makes him a squad player. Ultimately, you know, he's the fourth choice in a 3-man midfield.
I think squad. I think it's no. I see you. Technically, yes, but like squad player, I think of a squad.
It's just a different way of packaging it.
I think Kostas is a squad player.
Yeah.
Well, Curtis Jones is in exactly the same boat.
If you're playing FIFA career mode, right, and you're offering out new deals, squad player's the third choice. You know what I mean? I think if you put important first team
the fringe player is worse.
He's like this. He's coming in and out.
Yeah.
I think squad players like he's only playing the League Cup games and the FA Cup.
That's a fair point.
I think squad play this year. Like Harvey Elliott's been a squad player.
Yeah.
Federico Chiesa's been a squad
lower
player.
Down than that. Jesus Christ, definitely lower down than that.
I just think if you play the majority of games, if you play 37 games, you're a squad player.
No.
You're every game.
No, he isn't, though, because he's not. When he's fit and available, he's not nailed on to start every week. That's Alexis McAllister.
But that doesn't make him not an important first team.
Yeah. So just on...
We're getting sidetracked by semantics. Yeah.
Just on that, though, quick, though. It's fine, ultimately, being fourth choice in that 3-man midfield, because you're right, he would start for most Premier League teams in the league up and down the land. They absolutely would. But this is one, and a midfield three that's been sung from the hilltops about this season, like Dom Szoboszlai, captain of Hungary, Alexis McAllister, we universally agree is a wonderful footballer, World Cup winner, Argentinian international. Every single time Argentina play, he plays. Ryan Gravenberch has made himself that for the Netherlands. You know what I mean? He's had a wonderful season, different position for Curtis Jones. I wouldn't really like to see him in the six personally, but whatever, he can do it. So yeah, I think it's fine. I listen. He will want. The main point here is it's fine for us to sit here and say he's the fourth choice out of three. It's not fine for him to say that. He will want to make his way into the plans in the first team reckoning week in, week out. And the way he does that, honestly, I come back to my earlier point, is goals. Yeah. I think that's the... Listen, you need to put in generally good performances, but if you can do that and then add goals and assists to your game from that position, he's flying.
7.5, Luke.
I think he's been good, me. I give him an 8. I reckon this has been his best season so far.
I think there've been 8 and 8.5 games, but I think there's been...
I think I'm happy with 7.5. I think I'd stick with that one as well. Right then, that was Red Roulette. Enjoy that? Something nice chat.
Loved that.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts. Let anyone else that you want to get involved. Any of the players that we spoke about, do use the comment section, get involved with that one as well. Thanks very much for joining us today. Like I said at the top of the show, Bias Football Podcast will be recorded Tuesday afternoon. I say recorded, it'll be live on redmenplus.com. Go over to the website, sign up, use that promo code POD when you join as a yearly captain, and you'll get that show and a year's worth of content for half price. Do get over there. Catch you on next time, everyone. See you in a bit.